Alright, introduction to inspection of boilers on fire pressure vessels. Contents: inspection test frequency on fire pressure vessels, boiler inspection on fire pressure vessel inspection, pressure test, operational test, repair, alterations, inspection certificates and reports. Maximum allowable working pressure publication is from the Unified Facility Criteria, U.S. government, which are public domain, are authorized, unlimited, distributed, are not copyrighted. Alright, your inspection testing frequencies for boilers shown on Table 1. The boilers are wet and dry, lay item, leased annually, resumption active service, external lease, external annually, external operation, and resumption activity services. Hydrostatic testing according to the NBBI Part 2, Paragraph 431, test pressure should not exceed 90 degrees, 90% of the lowest setting pressure relief device at least annually. Alright, boilers with the American Society of Mechanical Engineering, Section 4, hot water heating, hot supplier boilers, inspection 3, at least every 3 years, every repair, alteration, pressure part, check fine size on fire, annual operational test, at least annually, and alteration, modification boilers, equipment, auxiliaries, hydrostatic test in accordance with NBBI paragraph 2431, 90% of lowest setting pressure relief device, at least annually, tested in accordance with the NBBI Part 3, paragraph 4441. After repair, alteration, pressure parts, additional time discretion of the steam heating boilers, at least annually after any repair, alteration, pressure of parts, at least annually after alteration, modification, boilers, controls, equipment, auxiliary, hydrostatic testing, NBBI part, paragraph 431, test pressure should not exceed 90% low setting pressure relief device, at least annually, strength test according to the NBI paragraph 441. After repair, alteration, pressure parts, additional time discretion inspection, high efficiency condensing water, heating gas fired boilers, at least every 3 years, at least annually, any alteration, modification, boiler control, equipment, auxiliary, for external operational tests, hydrostatic testing, according to the NBBI Part 2, paragraph 431, test pressure should not exceed 9% of lowest setting pressure relief device at least annually. Are your high pressure steam water released annually, any repair, alteration, pressure, or after any repair, alteration, at least annually after any alteration, boilers and control equipment and auxiliaries, hydrostatic testing, NBBI Part 2, 431, test pressure should not exceed 90% of low setting pressure release device, at least annually, strength tested at least every 3 years, strength tested after repair, alteration, pressure part, additional times, after discretion inspector, domestic hot water, or HLW, ASME, Section 4, if 3 practical, at least 2 a year, check oil fired units, at least every 2 years, check oil fired units annually. Discretion inspection, note glass fine vessels not to exceed maximum allowable pressure. Alright, 2. Unfired pressure vessels inspection testing frequencies for unpressured vessels shown in Table 2, 3, and 4 as practicable. Alright, pressure vessels heat exchange at 15 to 250 psi gauge, maximum allowable working pressure, internal inspection every 3 years determined by NBBI code for vessels corrosion after any repairs, alteration, pressure parts. External operation and testing, check 3 years, frequently determined procedure for the NBBI code vessel subject corrosion after any repair, alteration, pressure, inspection, include testing, calibration, safety, pressure, and depth gauges, hydrostatic test, strength test, according to the NBBI, paragraph 3, part 3, paragraph 441, after repair, alteration, pressure parts, additional times, and discretion inspector. Our pressure vessel heat exchange greater than 250 psi gauge every 3 years, frequently to proceed with the NBBI code vessel subject to corrosion after any repair, alteration, or pressure parts. Every 3 years or more, frequently determined procedure for the NBBI code vessels subject to the corrosion after any repair, alteration, pressure parts inspection, include testing, calibration, safety valves, pressure, temperature, and gauges. Hydrostatic every 6 years. Inspection shows no signs of the test may be deferred until the next inspection must be tested at least every 12 years. Hydrostatic testing in the NBBI Part 2, paragraph 431, test pressure should not exceed 90%. Low setting pressure relief device site test strength testing according to the NBBI Part 3, paragraph 441. After repair, alteration, pressure parts, additional time discretion of the inspector. Mil-spec vessels, every 3 years, inspection must include test, calibration, safety valves, and pressure temperature gauge. Every 3 years, surface inspection must include testing, calibration, safety pressure gauge, temperature gauge, hydrostatic test CO2, carbon dioxide storage tanks. Only vessels to be pressurized has been open atmosphere other than the intermediate air repair, maintenance, or when directed to authorized boiler. Every 3 years after a repair, alteration, pressure parts are directed by the authorized boiler inspector. And hydrostatic testing after repair, alteration, pressure parts directed by an authorized inspector. Caution of the hydrostatic testing: it is essential that water be removed from the vessel before returning it to surface. Water will freeze and create blockage. Liquid petroleum gas storage tanks every 3 years or more if determined with the procedure of the MBBI code. After repairing alteration pressure parts, use ultrasonic testing instead of visual internal inspection. External inspection operational tests every 3 years determined with the procedure of the MBBI code for the repair alteration pressure parts. Bench testing replaced with the UL ASME safety valves every 6 years. Hydrostatic testing after any repair alteration pressure parts, otherwise discretion by the inspector. Our table 3 inspection frequencies, and it shows the tank surface in feet squared from 20 to 140 with a flow rate air foot cubed a minute. Tank surface foot squared, flow rate air foot cubed minute. Sorry, that goes to 200. Alright, your inspection frequencies: UPV, deaerators every 3 years. After any repair, alteration, pressure parts, inspection must include tests of calibration, safety valves, pressure, temperature gauge. Inspection must include calibration, safety valves, and pressure, temperature gauges. External inspection after 3 years, every 3 years after repair, alteration, pressure parts. Hydrostatic test every 6 years. Strength test after repair, alteration, pressure parts. Strength test in accordance with the MBBI Part 3, Paragraph 4414, additional times, discretions of the inspector. Alright, your boiler inspections. Okay, let's continue. Guidance. The activity operating maintained with the boiler provide with all the material of the labor necessary for the repair of the boiler. Inspection according with the MBBI code for the activity to assist the inspector required during the inspection exemption for the policy occur for the operation maintenance of the boiler is under the cognizance of the contractor. In this case, if the contractor provides material, labor, and assistance, the inspector should not compromise with the code intent, but should exercise the resistant interpreting the fine points of the ASME code. 3.2 External inspection boilers. Perform external inspection of the boilers according with Part 2, Section 2, and inspection data detailed requirements for the in-service inspection pressure rating items of the paragraph entitled External Inspection for the National Board Inspection Code. Our test safety devices for the power of the external inspection. Perform final testing safety valves over the power of boilers down the boiler to which the valves will be mounted. The operational testing observation are considered to be part of the external inspection. Internal inspection of the boilers. Perform internal inspection of the boilers in accordance with Part 2, Section 2, inspection data. Detailed requirements over the inspection pressure rating item of the paragraph entitled the Internal Inspection National Board Inspection Code. Boiler inspectors have the authority to order the boiler metal samples of ultrasonic testing taken with the examination assertion, actual condition, and pressure parts. 3.4 Boilers in wet or dry layup. In addition with external and internal inspections required above, the remove the layup, the procedure being used to ensure that they conform to all applicable requirements. 4. Unfired pressure vessel inspection. The activity operating maintained with the pressure vessel provide with the material with the labor necessary for the repair of the unfired pressure vessel for inspection according with the MBBI code. The activities to assist the inspector required during the inspection exemption for the policy occur with the operation and maintenance of the pressure vessel is under cognizance of the contractor and gave the contractor provide with the material, labor, and assistance inspection pressure vessel located on the Navy bases in foreign countries, but must comply with the guidance of limited constraints of registration regulations. In fact, the inspector should not compromise safety issues, but should exercise restraint in interpreting the fine points of the ASME code. 4.2 External inspection on fire pressure vessels. Perform the external inspection on fire pressure vessels in accordance with Part 2, Section 2, inspection detailed requirements for the in-service inspection pressure rating item of the paragraph entitled the External Inspection National Board Inspection Code. 4.3 Internal inspection on fire pressure vessels. Perform internal inspection on unified pressure vessel according to Part 2, Section 2, in inspection detailed requirement for in-service inspection pressure rating items in the paragraph entitled the Internal Inspection National Board Inspection Code. And inspectors may have the authority to order metal samples or ultrasonic tests for their examination assertion of the actual code of the vessel. 404 military specification pressures, vessels, internal and external inspection. Examine the vessel in accordance with the paragraph of the chapter. External inspection for the unified unfire pressure vessels and internal inspection of unified unfire pressure vessels. View the internal surface with the remote viewing equipment, periscope, fiberscope, if necessary, supplied by activity by another acceptable method. Record areas of wear, corrosion, abuse, and any other damage attached to the inspection report. Ultrasonic examination, military specification, subject path for the ultrasonic thickness measurement, check, activity performs the checks while the inspector observes the makes check with the point of the tansy between the cylinder and the end of the head to take the measure at 2-inch intervals around the circumference of the vessel to make sure that on a long line the head from the point of tansy across the end of the head of the far point tangent. Take the measure along the similar line with the right angle of the first end of the head. Take line of the measurement at each end of the vessel. Arrange the lines so the vessel below point where the water may collect. The corrosion may form is measured. Take measure every 2-3 years. 2-3 years or 2 years. Ultrasonic measure point vessels configuration cylindrical cylinder must be approved by the inspector for the line points of measurement and identical to each inspection activities maintained with the measured requirements of the vessel and not D-rated with the NOR certified with the measured thickness as prescribed and by standards in which of the constructed. For example, American Site Mechanical Engineering Section 8, Division 1, ASME, Section 8, Division 2, Military Specification Detail 22606, flask, end plugs, compromise, compressed air, gas, air of oxygen, nitrogen, ships. 4421 ultrasonic examination ASME Division 1 and Division 2 vessels. Ultrasonic testing with addition with the internal inspection highly encouraged should be performed by the inspector. 443 variations. Address request of variation inspection testing procedure with the middle spec pressure vessels with the Navy FAC boiler inspection certification board with a copy respectively East to West Navy FAC senior boiler inspector. Alright, 4. De-aerators. Purpose of the de-aerating heater of the de-aerator is to remove the non-condensable gas, dissolve the oxygen from the feed water. Properly operating of the de-aerator will no more than 10 parts per billion oxygen out of the water. The de-aerators are subject to the thermal cycling corrosion. Proper operation of the de-aerator is extremely important because of the critical function protecting the boiler system for the corrosion. Catastrophic failure. De-aerators are usually attributable to the cracks from longitudinal transversal heat effective zones of the well. De-aerator's potential greater danger than location on top of the heating power plant. To ensure that the de-aerators provide safe, reliable service for the required with the periodic and visual inspection. Internal and external surface of the visual inspection reveals cracking of the component. Each specializing de-aerator inspection must perform ultrasonic examination entire vessel with a fluorescent magnetic particle examination, heat affected zones prior to certification to determine the continued operation of vessel safe. Subject repairs to post-well heat treatment, hydrostatic testing prior to certification. 4.6 liquid petroleum gas tank non-mandatory guidelines may be defined with the National Board Inspection Code Supplement 7, page 259, inspection pressure vessel liquid petroleum gas service. 461 external inspection. Examine the liquid petroleum gas, propane, butane, etc. tanks in accordance with the subparagraph S4. S7-4, page 260 records area of the wear, corrosion, abuse, damage, attach inspection report, check capacity rating on the safety relief valve nameplate with a proper valve discharge. 462, internal inspection. Tanks containing non-corrosive liquids have virtually no internal corrosion inspection method. Inspect vessels by means of ultrasonic thickness measurement check. 463, hydrostatic tests. Hydrostatic tests are for any repair after any repair or alteration pressure plate. Pressure parts, additional times of discretion over the inspector prior to performing a hydrostatic test. Very support structure adequate to support the weight of a hydrostatic liquid. Hydrostatic test is not possible. Was approved with a pneumatic test for the owner. Safety relief valve for liquid petroleum gas tanks. The ASME Section 4 ASE 4 Section 8 Division 1 Certified Underwriters Laboratory UL 132 stamp spring-loaded safety valves do not fit safely. Relief valve liquid petroleum gas lifting device will place bench tests and safely review. Safe relief of every 6 years. Service will be done by the company authorized to perform such tests as ASME UL safety valves. Alright, 5. Pressure test. Hydrostatic test. Make hydrostatic tests in accordance with the paragraphs below of the National Board Inspection Code, paragraph Part 2, Section 4, Inspection Examination Test Methods, Evaluation, paragraph Pressure Testing. Strength with a test pressure. Base strength test with the maximum allowable working pressure of the boiler and pressure vessel marked with the recalculated as a result of the previous tests of boilers, unfire pressure vessels that cover the ASME Section 1 or Section 8, Division 1 subject with the internal pressure will be hydrostatically pressured 1.5 times the highly safety valve popping pressure, 1.5 times the maximum allowing work open pressure, whichever is less unfired pressure vessels constructed by the standard ASME Section 8, Division 2, subject internal pressure tested hydrostatic pressure at 1.25 times the highest safety valve popping pressure, 1.25 times maximum allowable working pressure, whichever the less exemptions. Valves not capable of supporting the weights of the liquid. Chapter 10, maximum allowable working pressure. Vessels not readily dried to be used in service as traces of the testing liquid cannot be tolerated. The testing pressure enabled the vessels will be less equal to but not exceeding the maximum allowable working pressure marked on the vessel. The test pressure gas line vessels will not exceed maximum allowable working pressure. The test pressure of the cast iron vessels will be 2 times maximum allowing working pressure. Maximum allowable working gauge pressure greater than 30 psi gauge at 2.5 times the maximum allowing working pressure, but not to exceed 60 psi gauge for maximum allowing working pressure gauges under 30 psi gauge. The test pressure for the vessel piping the high pressure air systems will not include 1.5 times the maximum allowable working pressure of the system. Vacuum vessels, single wall vessels designed with a vacuum, partially vacuum only. Chamber the multi-chamber vessels designed with vacuum, partially vacuum only, needed to be subject hydrostatic test. 15112 special combination unit. The typical simple special combination used each of the pressure vessels required hydrostatic without pressure in the others. 5113 hydrostatic test with fluids other than water. Test procedure fluids other than water must be approved by the owner. 512 tightness for the test procedure. Perform tightness test procedure at above the normal operating pressure, not exceeding the lowest safety valve set pressure. Safety valves may be blocked or gagged for this test. Precautions. Direct connection of the boiler water system is prohibited. Any approved backflow prevention device is not installed to prevent contamination of potable water system. Provide a power-driven hand pump to the application for the test pressure boil feed with the will not deliver test pressure test pump. Will provide activity unless activity utilities can inspect or operate inspection determine with the proper working condition connection with the boiler vessel. 514 possible deformation. In addition, indications probable to permit the deformation observed with the chief of the test the weak parts of the ebon properly strength of the necessary repair with not practical apply with the new test progressing of the 20 psi less for the pressure preceding test seeds. If the test is successful, maximum allowing work pressure is 2/3 of the test pressure reset replaced for the safety valve in accordance with the new maximum allowable working pressure. 515 holding pressure for all boilers. UPVs a heat exchanger for the pressure with the drop more than 10% within 15 minutes. If the pressure drops exceeds 10%, repair leaks. Repeat test. Pressure drops within 10% of the inspection does not reveal leaks into the pressure parts. Assuming the leaks are through isolation valves, manholes, or handholds. 516 inspection under pressure. Inspection all joints connection with the leaks. The other defects of vessels under pressure. The pressure held during the inspection need not necessarily to be acquired with a hydrostatic pressure, but will not be less than 2/3 of the hydrostatic test pressure. For the test pressure to exceed with the maximum allowed working pressure of the item, test pressure must be reduced to the maximum allowed working pressure. Examination with the inspector. 517 permanent deformation. Permanent deformation of an unfired pressure vessel shell heads or boiler shell or drum has occurred whether as the result of the hydrostatic pressure for the normal operating pressure. Make repair with only after the virus definitely determined that such repairs are practical and economical. After approved repairs of this nature have completed, recalculate the maximum allowable working pressure of the vessel boiler or in accordance with the requirements appropriate standard prior to returning vessel boiler to serve the perform hydrostatic test based on recalculated maximum allowable workable problem test. 518 gasket replace manhole handhold gasket after performing hydrostatic strength tests under the non-compressible metal gasket used. Pneumatic tests. Perform a pneumatic test on the extreme course when a hydrostatic is not permissible. Do not perform pneumatic tests without written approval of the owner of the proposed pneumatic test procedure for each of the particular tests in the request. Pneumatic test procedure. Each of the particular tests are in UG 100 Section 8 with the Division 1 Vision vessels. Articles T4 Section 8 Division 2 vessels. Pneumatic test pressure 1.25 times the maximum allowable worker pressure. Division 1 vessels 1.5 15 to 100 400 times the maximum allowable working pressure for Division 2 vessels. A pneumatic test may be used for liquid hydrostatic prescribed as follows. For vessels designed and supported that cannot be safely filled with water, for vessels not readily dried up, the use and surface of the traces are testing liquid cannot be tolerated. Any and the parts which have, where possible, may be previously tested hydrostatic test pressure. Higher pressure test results. Yield during testing. And yield occurs. Examination show the vessel's satisfactory condition. Exam establish maximum oil and pressure at 50% of the pressure at the yielding. No yielding during the testing. If yielding does not occur, increase the pressure for the step-by-step until the required test pressure has reached the hold the pressure for the sufficient time to permit impact and inspection of these vessel leaks for the signs of failure. 533. Inspection under pressure. Permanent deformation occur with the replace with the repair vessel and permanent deformation occur with the vessel not constructed of the American side. Mechanical engineer, boiler pressure vessel, code drill, discard the vessel. Alright, 6. Operational tests. Guidance. The following inspection with the external inspection bring the boiler on fire pressure vessel up to the operating pressure temperature with the inspect with the call of the function under operating condition automatically and manually operate the control of the devices. Provide with the controlling operating vessel steam with the water pressure, hot water temperature with the combustion boiler, water level to inspect with the under of the condition, operating condition, all of the associated valves and piping pressure for temperature, aid of gaining device metering, recording devices, and auxiliary boiler, firing oil and gas without fully automatic, semi-automatic controls must have an owner wave to certified combustion controls attached to the boiler, regardless of the fuel being fired, must be in good working order. Inspection certificate will be withheld. Inspection test on boilers made with the main steam hot water distribution valve with the closed and open necessary with the fire boiler operated with under normal operation conditions. Test the function automatically with a manually controlled device apparatus. Interfere with the distribution requirement should be done. Mainstream hot water distribution valves closed as applicable. 611 purpose of the additional inspection testing inspection to discover the additional unsafe operation maintenance of the vessel of the boiler with the auxiliary that may be evidence under the condition. 612 condition that to be report all deficiency requiring adjustment, repair, replacement, all condition indicating except for the operating maintenance costs withhold certificates until deficiencies are corrected. Alright, 6.2 Fire equipment. Inspect any other deficiency that evident under the operation condition. Operation fire equipment include oil burner, gas burners, fuel, injector fuel, igniters, coal, stokers, feeders, burners, safety controls. Other equipment such provide with the introduced fuel with the burner face for the ignite the fuel, inspect the flame pattern to ensure the consistent manufacturer specification. All fuel leaks must be repaired before certificate is issued. Alright, 6.3 Controls. Inspect for the operation of all of the controls associated with the operation safety of the boiler to effect the preventing proper operation. These controls include such items as unloading valves, high pressure cutout devices, high temperature cutout devices, low pressure cut-in devices, burner safety controls, inspection, operation, combustion controls, steam pressure control, water temperature control, feed water controls. Make sure the ability of the combustion control, steam pressure control to maintain the proper steam pressure or water temperature in a high temperature water insulation and airflow ratio demonstrated with the capacity range of the boiler. Load swings encountered by the operation of large boilers. Ensure the airflow ratio is checked during the inspection within the CO carbon dioxide oxygen measuring device as the result of the consistent manufacturer recommendation appropriate industry or owner guidelines. CO2 carbon monoxide check temperature will be also checked to ensure the boiler with the properly turned with efficient operation with the carbon monoxide emissions that optimize consistent with the manufacturer specification appropriate industry owner guidelines. Check for the fully automatic boilers control of the programming sequence timing with the prior spec for the pre-purge ignition pilot valve proving flame proving the post-purge periods. Check operation flame failure combustion air failure device. This is to ensure the proper shut-off of the supply of the fuel should be done with simulating the flame failure, mainly shutting off the fuel. Other means by observing the operation control solenoid valve, diaphragm operated valve, so forth, which operate during the name flame failure. The installation boiler controls include the fuel train operation automatic burner management system. Must comply with the National Fire Codes NFCs, including National Fire Protection Association 85 boiler combustible system hazardous codes AS American Society of Mechanical Engineers ESD1. And effective at the time installation boilers inspect feed water control. Check the ability of the controls. Maintain proper water level through the range of capacity with load swings. Check operational water fuel cutoff the automatic water feeding devices draining the float bowl. Lowering the boil water level to perform the necessary steps to cause the device to function to ensure it operate properly. R64, piping and piping connection. When the boiler or vessel is operating with a full operational pressure, examine all the steam in the water pipes, including the connection water columns associated in piping for leaks. If the leaks are found, determine whether they result in inspection, excessive strain due to the expansion, contraction, water hammer with the other cause. Look for undue vibration, practically piping connection to the boiler vessel. When excessive vibration is found, examine connection parts of the tendency of the Crystal 5 devices. Temperature of the indicating device. Observe all temperature indicating the device. Indication of the temperature, excessive temperature, particularly during the immediate following time with a high load demands made of the boiler and vessel. 652 metering and recording device. The boiler is operating under the normal conditions. Observe the operation of all metering and recording devices. When there's evidence that any of such device does not function properly, it may be adjusted, repaired, or replaced if necessary. Alright, valves, 661, drawn, blow down valve with the, test freedom of each of the blow down valve with the connection, opening of the valve with the blowing down of the boiler with a few seconds to determine whether the valve is excessively worn over, otherwise defective, whether there is evidence restriction of the valve connected, preventing the blow down of the motor. Stop check valves. While the boiler or vessel is operating, inspect for the operation condition of each of the stop and the check valve with a possible serious defect with externally controlled stop valves may be detected for the operation of the valve when it's under pressure. Similar defects to check valves may be detected by listening to the operation of the valve, observing any excessive vibration of the valve as it operates under pressure. 6-3, pressure reducing valve. While there is pressure in the system, open and close the and then close the bypass valve. If the operating conditions permit the reserve fluctuation pressure gauge is aided to determine the possible effect of the operation pressure reducing valve with the pressure gauge. Look for evidence may indicate the improper condition of the release safety valves provided with the pressure reducing valve. Alright, 664, safety and safety relief valve. Inspect the valve with evidence for the leak of the proper operation. Check with the popping pressure of the blowdown safety valve along the pressure of the boiler to drive the safety so the valve lifts. Inspect the valve drain discharge to ensure that free of the obstruction installed in accordance with the ASME code for multiple valve operation. The accumulation test can be accomplished with checking the freedom of the valve, lifting and using lifting lever. Provide the pressure within 10% of the valve set pressure. Similarly, check the safety valves by using the lifter lever. Prior installation operations necessary prior to installation. Issuing inspection report certificate. Our boiler auxiliary. If the boiler is operating under normal conditions, observe the operation of all the boiler auxiliaries and defects to prevent the proper function of the boiler may indicate lack of proper maintenance. Discourage unnecessary multiple auxiliaries for the use of the auxiliary during the light load. When a smaller auxiliary code is substituted, steam like wastage, atmosphere, so forth, so it can be called. Attention operating personnel, particular attention should be given to deaerate the venting practice. Venting should be made a minimum required pressure. Preclude oxygen entrapment in the feed water. The intermittent operation condensating pumps are used looking at the tendency towards creation of the vacuum of the pump start happens with installation of small continuous operating float throttle condensation pump in parallel with the intermittently operating pumps will ensure the condensated flow items and their number of the intermittent operating condensated pumps may be possible to convert one of them if small enough the policy capacity of the continuous throttle operation. Alright, 6-8, boiler and feed water treatment. Observe the operation equipment that provide the boiler and feed water treatment. To check with the material of the procedure for the use of the boiler and feed water treatment to ensure the adequate protection against scale corrosion. Boiler plant equipment distribution. Internal condition of boilers. Evidence of the inspection required by the paragraph entitled the internal inspection of the boilers is the determined factor required adequacy material procedure for the use of the boiler feed water treatment and within the withhold certificate effect of the boiler water treatment program is not being implemented. 6-9, fuel handling practice. Check with the fuel handling practice. Make sure for the recommendation toward the elimination of multi-handling of heat tanks not in use simultaneously. Use heaters to duplex fuel oil pump heater set with load conditions not required by the procedure for the void heating entry tanks. Entire tanks. Limit heating of the tank with the heating of the suction point only. Will respect with the residual fuel of the tank with the frequent changes utilizing full capacity for the tank with the max drawn down, extending for the tank at the bottom should be encouraged as means of precluding sludge buildup. 7. Repairs and alterations. Guidance for the repair of the equipment for being necessary for certification activity may be already where necessary prior reports prior to the inspection testing prior to the issuing certificate. All deficiencies that cause unsafe conditions must be corrected. The repairs must complete according to the applicable code for pressure parts. Repair must be performed according to the MBBI ASME codes for combustion control safeguards. Burner safety control for the equipment must be repaired with the requirement of the National Fire Protection Association 85 ASME CSD 1 is applicable to the ensure the safe operation condition. Repairs flame safeguard equipment. It should only be manufactured by authorized representative. 7.2 Contractor repairs owner activities must be allowed option using owners, welders qualified in accordance with the applicable standard of the repair for the bless you. Alteration powers unfair pressure vessels contracting holding NBBI are standard according with Part 3, Section 1 repair alteration general administrative requirement of the National Board inspection code for the welding repairs alteration contractor owner organization furnished qualified welder must comply with the owner documentation equivalent to the National Board Form R1 stamping the nameplate attachment required. Alright, 7.3. The setting safety relief valve, setting safety valves of the power boilers, relief valve of the UPVs, limited to ASME Section 1, and 8 are adjustments or other changes in settings, welding, machining, or repair. Bless you! Other changes, setting, welding, machine, or repairs, adjustment of these values are not valid unless performed with the manufacturer valve repair. Repairs of the owner are period with the contract required with the National Board VR nameplate with a repair valve. The valve, the repair adjustment document of the breaking of the seal, setting of the valve, the resealing of the valve, power boilers, UPVs, not certified unless all safety relief valves are sealed and tagged. Bench testing of the valves is not adjustment, but it must be performed with the ASME, non-ASME shop government if required with the documentation provided, including valve names, date, plate, pressure at which it was open, date with the time of the testing, and signature of the test. Alright, 7.4 Recorder Records, ANSI NB31 National Board Inspection Code Part 3, Section 5 Repair Alteration Certification Document Stamping of the foreman's various forms. F Form R1 Report of the welded repair. Form R2 Report of Alteration. Form R3 Repair Reports of repair. Reports of parts fabricated by welding. Report R4 Report of supplementary sheet. Information in these forms acceptable to the inspector of repair alteration can proceed with the inspection. Upon inspector's approval of the work or the activity must make the permanent record of the repair alterations. Alright, inspection certificate reports, procedure for submitting reports and forms, filing with the report for using the inspection testing boilers on fire pressure vessels. Alright, inspection reports boilers on fire pressure vessels applicable to the report complete with the inspector record condition with the boiler on fire pressure tested, performed and issued with the certificate. 8.12 Inspection certificate of the boiler on fire pressure vessels. Current valid certificate commercial equivalent with the contracting inspection must be posted on near the equipment certified inspector under with the clear protective covering. Operation with equipment without certificate with an authorized certificate will be issued using the following conditions. No deficiency inspector will complete and sign after the testing of the inspection. Deficiency not affecting operation safety may be issued, but correction must be recorded on the inspection report. Deficiency affecting operation safety withheld until corrected, re-inspected. Owner must be notified in writing listing specific deficiencies. Pressure reduction issue producing working pressure oral notification consumed writing must be made an inspector of the owner. Unserviceable notice of the give it may be issued. The inspector must notify the owner in writing of the deficiencies. Alright, 9. Maximal allowable working pressure guidance. The maximal allowable working pressure determined in accordance described with the National Board Inspection Code. The following paragraphs provide with the maximal allowable working pressure. The defect, the damage discovered during the inspection must be repaired. If judgment of the inspector's steam of the hot water boiler vessel is unsafe for the operation pressure previously approved, reduce the pressure, make the proper repair, condemn the boiler vessel. 9.2 Standard boilers include the expansion drum of the high temperature water of the insulation maximal allowable working pressure built and boiler built in accordance with the ASME PBVC code, but must not indicate exceed the pressure indicated by the manufacturer identification stamp cast upon the boiler upon the plate secured to it specify the requirements govern maximal allowable working pressure on the following standard boilers must be followed. 9.2.1 Standard water tube boilers, maximum working gauge pressure for the standard water tube with the tubes are secured with the cast iron malleable iron heads which have the cast iron med drums do not exceed 1103.16 kilopascals. 9.2 Standard cast iron steam boilers, maximum allowable working pressure gauge for the standard cast iron steam boiler must not exceed 15 psi gauge. And cast iron hot water boilers operating temperatures not exceed 250 degrees Fahrenheit and may be operated at a gauge pressure up to 160 psi gauge. 9.3 Non-standard boilers, non-standard riveted boilers, maximum working pressure on shells, non-standard riveting heater must be determined in accordance with the code except in no case of maximum allowable working gauge pressure steam heating boiler 103.42 kilopascals, hot water boiler 160 psi gauge of the temperature not exceeding 250 degrees Alright, not 3932. Non-standard welded boilers, maximum allowable working gauge pressure, non-standard welding wrought iron heater welded construction must exceed 15 psi gauge for steam. Other than steam server, the calculated maximum allowable working pressure in accordance with the code. 933. Non-standard cast iron boilers, maximum allowable working gauge. The pressure of the non-standard pressure coded posed principally of the cast iron must not exceed 15 psi gauge for steam server, 30 psi gauge for hot water service. Maximum allowable working gauge pressure in non-standard boiler having cast iron shell heads and steel and wrought iron tubes must not exceed 15 psi gauge for steam pressure and 30 psi gauge for hot water pressure. Art 9.4 calculation maximum allowable working pressure. When inspection indicated the thickness of the plate with a shrink with any joint within, the maximum allowable working pressure is based on the impracticable and to apply required hydrostatic test. Calculating new maximum allowable working pressure in accordance with the rules of the code, but the following factor safety must be used or increased by the inspector in condition 4.4 the boilers demands it. Lowest factor safety permissible existing installation 4.5 horizontal return tubular boilers continuous longitudinal lapses seams more than 12 feet in length. The factor of safety is 8. When the later type of the boiler is removed with existing setting, it must not be reinstalled with a gauge pressure with excess of 15 psi gauge. Reinstall second hand boiler with a minimum factor of the safety 6. When in longitudinal seams lap riveted construction, minimum factor safety of 5. Longitudinal seams are butt in a double strap construction. Maximal allowable working pressure vessel operation. It must be computed with appropriate formulas of the code with the use of the dimensional actual to determine the inspection thickness twice as estimated corrosion allowance. Before the next inspection, make suitable allowances for the other loading and enumerated codes to be considered for the design vessel. Maximum allowable working pressure of the vessel design built with one or more openings with the enclosure of the auxiliary equipment not part of the pressure vessel, but determined only after the consideration auxiliary of the equipment to be used closure. Minimum feature factor of safety must not be less than 4. Must be increased in the inspector if the condition safety of the vessel demands it. The condition of the vessel and the particular service of which the subjects are a determining factor, and the factor safety and built-in ASME code formula is section 1 for the reference of the original formula. Equation is P equals TS times minor T times E divided by R divided by FS. P is your pressure. Pressure in PSI is equal to tensile strength times thickness in inches times efficiency longitudinal seams divided by inside radius in inches divided times factor of safety. And then it goes into the exam. And that was the introduction inspection boilers, unfired pressure vessels.